Again, Stan Gravois joining you tonight. Jason DeGate out, and he will be out on Thursday too. I'll be back on Thursday, but it's my pleasure to have here at the desk Representative Bill Cassidy. Mr. Cassidy, Dr. Cassidy, Representative Cassidy is from Billy is from the Baton Rouge area, and we've been talking about some of those things that have been going on in Washington. You introduced, and I want to make sure that I get this right, Job Creation and Energy Security Act of 2011. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we know in South Louisiana, let me start over. We have a problem of unemployment. And traditionally, and it's among men principally. And the way men have always worked is mining, oil and gas, coal, construction, or manufacturing. And the three are related. If you have cheap, reliable sources of fuel, then you're more likely to have manufacturing, because manufacturing uses lots of energy. And if you can hold down your energy cost, you can afford to manufacture here instead of taking that overseas. When a plant is manufacturing, they tend to add on. They build more. They construct. And when workers are making good wages, they buy homes, also contributing to construction. Right now, the economy is suffering most for men. Those are the people who are unemployed. You know, before the moratorium, Lafourche-Terrebonne had the lowest unemployment in the nation. Out of every county in the nation, unemployment was lowest here.
I don't think that's ever been said, you know, not because I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I don't recall anybody ever saying that. And I actually compared to what it is now, obviously.
Well, now it's not bad compared to the
rest of the country. Yes.
But it was the lowest. And frankly, when oil is at $100 a barrel, people should be moving to South Louisiana to work in our industry. Now, what is this economy based on? Oil and gas. Building boats to serve the oil and gas industry. Building pipelines to take it to the petrochemical plants that go up and down the river. I could go on, but you see my point. When I'm trying to think of how do you come up with a jobs program for the rest of the nation, why don't we develop our natural gas? Now, we're already using natural gas as feedstock for chemical plants, ExxonMobil in Baton Rouge, Dow in St. Charles Parish, I could go on. But what about transportation? If you allowed car manufacturers to build natural gas propane vehicles, and you had a retail place where somebody could put propane in or compressed natural gas, then we could wean ourselves off of foreign oil and begin using our own natural gas. Now, there's two bills out there. One bill has about $5 billion in federal subsidies. That's not the bill we're talking about. My bill has no subsidies, but it allows private businesses, if they think they can make money, to invest in building compressed natural gas stations or propane stations so that the car dealers can now build cars and people can put fuel in them. So that's my bill, thinking that if we can make more cars running natural gas, we will have more natural gas stations, you're building stations. We'll have more pipelines to those stations, you're building pipelines. And we'll have more reason to find more natural gas, so we're creating all the jobs that go along with that as well.
Very good. In reading literature about you, I saw a statement, and I'm going to let you don't have to obviously verbatim come back with the statement that you said on this, but I thought it was very interesting, and if you can paraphrase it just a bit. Talk a little bit about your belief on debt limit negotiations.
Since I've said a lot about it, I'm not sure which quote you speak of.
And I'll just kind of start it off for you, and maybe you can talk a little bit about the context that it was said in. Raising taxes will kill jobs and prevents economy recovery. To address the debt, we must cut spending.
We must cut spending. Washington, D.C. doesn't have a revenue problem, it has a spending problem. And we know that if you start taxing the private sector, you're taxing jobs. Now, it's not going to be the CEO of the company that loses her job or his job. It's going to be the person who's doing the work on the ground. Those are the kind of jobs we need. I would rather the money stay with the business so the business can hire more people working on the ground, if you will, than to take that money and send it to Washington, D.C. for Washington, D.C. to spend it where they think they should. I want the money to stay here in the community, creating the kind of jobs we spoke of earlier. Now, there's some folks who just want more money. I disagree with that. Again, I think that we've got a spending problem, not a revenue problem. Hold the line on taxes and cut our spending.
I'm going to ask you something that for the last week, probably week and a half, here on Bayou Time, as Martin as host and Jason as host, we open up phone lines and viewers call in, and as a resident of Louisiana, take the politics maybe away from it. Well, obviously the politics is going to have to be involved some. Our 4-cent cigarette tax, that is. Your views on that?
I, as a doctor, wish no one smoked, but we're a free country and people can if they wish. The governor's gotten criticism on this, but the governor, let's give him his due, said he was not going to raise taxes. He saw this not as a revenue neutral, he saw it as a tax increase.
The cigarette was irrelevant. It was a tax increase.
Yes, and the governor said that he was not going to raise taxes. So people always say politicians don't keep their word. Clearly the governor felt like he was keeping his word, and we probably should give him credit on that.
Very good. We're in a situation down here as far as it goes now. You were very involved with Morganza. As a matter of fact, when I came in tonight, I asked, have we ever had Representative Cassidy on before? And they said no, but we did interview him one time. You had done something as far as Morganza, and obviously that did not become a big threat to us. For lack of a better way to say it, what do you know about us? Is this one of your first steps, or have you been doing things to get to know this part of the state, so to speak, because it is going to be your constituency?
I've actually thought about coastal restoration since I worked with Reggie Dupree in the state Senate. Reggie sat just to my left, and he called himself Mr. Coast. He was coast before coastal was cool. And so the Mississippi River is Louisiana because of the Mississippi River. And I've often thought about that river and how we use that to rebuild our coast. And I've been fascinated by it. So on my map, on my wall in Washington, D.C., there's a 6-foot map of the Mississippi River Basin all the way from the Canadian border down to the Gulf of Mexico. So one of the things I've thought about deeply for a long time is how do we rebuild our coast, and how do we rebuild it using the Mississippi River? So there'd be people that would come to visit. Clifford Smith is an engineer from this area, and long before I knew I was going to represent this region, he came up, and I kept our meeting long so I could pick Clifford's brain about how do we use that river to rebuild our coast. So that's just one example. The other example is before I knew I was going to represent this area, I was on the Natural Resources Committee last Congress and used that position to argue against the moratorium, against the permitatorium, and would quote often that the lowest unemployment rate in the nation was in Lafourche-Terrebonne. We should be imitating them, not punishing them. So this region has been kind of, if you will, foremost in my thoughts for quite some time.
Very good, very good. Jason, tell them we've got one more break to take. We'll come back with one more segment and get some closing remarks and move on again with Representative Bill Cassidy. And we also want to make you aware, going to have those folks up from the Independence Day celebration again. We keep on passing this on. July 2nd, not July 4th. July 4th is on a Monday. They are going to celebrate at the Houma Civic Center on July 2nd. They'll talk more about that when they come on. We're going to take a break. We'll be back again with Representative Bill Cassidy.